Okay, 4th grade through 9th grade, this week for week 26, we are going to finish our face mapping. So we've already worked on our eyes and our nose, and then we went into our ears and our mouth. So this week we're actually going to find the whole layout of the face and then put those features that we've already worked on from the weeks in the past onto that face. What you're going to need is your sketchbook, a ruler, a pencil. If you have drawing pencils, get those ones. That will help you. If you want to use a tool to make a circle, you can, or we can do it the way we did with our eye sockets 2 weeks ago, just using a ruler. And then, of course, an eraser. So grab those items, come back, and we will start laying out our faces. All right, so this is kind of the direction we're going, but I'm going to show you how we get there first. You want to have a white sheet of paper. And I have some construction lines laid out on right here on my right so that you can kind of see where I'm going with this as I'm drawing them out. I'm going to use a colored pencil just so that you can see a color difference for my construction lines. And there's actually a couple of ways that you can do this. We're really going to build about 2 layers of construction lines before we get to our final drawing. And I'm going to show you some possibilities of ways that you can work on that at home to kind of simplify that cleaning process in between each layer of construction lines. So I'll show you how we do that when we get there. But right now I want you to start with a circle. We are going to make a 5-inch circle. So like I said, you can use tools for that, or if you want to just use the ruler. I'm going to line up my 2.5, and I pre-marked on my page where I want my center line to be so that this is center. I'm going to just drag that in a circle. Sometimes it's easier just to actually move the whole paper, and you get a more consistent circle that way. So I'm going to do that. Now that is a 5-inch circle, and you see I have that marked over here on this paper. I drew a 5-inch circle. Now that's 5 inches side to side. Half of that is 2.5 inches, and I want to create a mark 2.5 inches down from the bottom of my circle over here on my face. So I'm going to take my colored pencil out now, and using my ruler, I'm going to use my T-square too, because that way I can make sure I'm lined up straight right there. And then using my ruler, I am going to find my 2.5 inches and put a mark right there. And again, if you have a T-square, that's awesome. I know I've been talking to you guys about that in class, using a T-square to kind of keep everything really level. And you can line that up right there, and then we will know where the bottom of the face is. So this is the top of the face, the bottom of the face, and we're going to just kind of continue to lay this out until we have almost like an egg shape. So this is the part where you're going to somewhat freehand, and I'm going to switch back to my pencil so that I can erase any lines that I don't want. Coming kind of straight down from your circle like this, and then kind of curving out to the side. This is where your jaw would be at, and you want to do the same thing here. Sometimes it can be difficult to see if you're symmetrical. Now, not everyone's face, most people's faces actually are not exactly the same on both sides. But you remember with my eyes that we did a couple weeks ago, I said to flip it upside down, and that can help you see if the shape that you have is actually the same on one side to the other side. Okay, and you can just erase and modify your shape till you feel like it's pretty close. It doesn't have to be exact. Like I said, no one's face is exactly even, especially not in every feature. So that's close enough right there. All right. So now coming back to our division of this space so that we know where each thing is found. Halfway from the top and the bottom of this face. Now this was 5 inches. This is 2.5 inches. So we have 7.5 inches. If we divide that directly in half, that's going to be where our eyes are. So I want to put that mark on here as well. All right, so 3 3/4 inch is our halfway mark right here. And I'm going to flip my T-square around so I can get my straight line across. Now out to the side, you can just label that eyes. Okay, and that's the line that your eyes are going to go on. Okay, so 7.5 inches top to bottom. We have our halfway mark at 3.5 inches or 3 3/4 inch. Now we want to divide this part in half. So half of 3 3/4 is 1 7/8. And we want a mark halfway down 1 7/8. I got my wrong line on the first one. There we go. Now we're good. And this one is going to be where our nose hits. So write that off to the side. And then again, we had our full face, and we did half of that for our eyes, then we did half of that space remaining for our nose. Now we're going to do half of this space remaining at the bottom, excuse me, for our mouth and our lips, okay? So we have 1 7/8 right here, so we need 15/16 of an inch right there. Now you don't have to be exact. If you wanted to just estimate, you can. If you want to be exact and make sure that you have that lined up exactly, do that, and that will kind of give you a whole lot more accuracy than the rough estimate. Okay. All right, and that is where your lips will be. Okay. Now, the same distance that we had from our chin to where our lips are, we want that same distance from the top of the head down. So you can take your pencil and hold it there like this and measure it, doing it that way. Come up to the top, hold your pencil down, lining up the top of your head, and then mark down there. You can do it like that. Or you can use your ruler and remeasure again. Now this mark is going to be your hairline. Make sure my papers are straight so that I don't get this crooked when I use my T-square. Okay. All right. Okay, so now this is where it comes in that you can easily jump from this to another layer of construction lines. If you don't want to have to go in and erase this each time, what you can do is just pull out another sheet of paper and lay it on top of it in your sketchbook. You can tear these out. I want to still have them stay in your sketchbook later, so you'd have to reattach them later, but you can take them to a window so that you can see through a whole lot easier. I have a light table and I'm going to use that right now so that you can see those lines pull through. And now I can pick up the lines and the measurements without all of those construction lines coming through. So now what we are going to create is something more like this drawing, which is pretty basic, it's going to go back to where we were with all of our basic features that we did, like with our eyes, our nose, and our lips, that mapping that we did. So let's start with the eyes. Our circle was 5 inches across, and so we should still have 5 inches across on the line that is marked eyes from below our paper. So we've got 5, and if you remember, we marked at each inch. Okay. Now we are going to come down to pull this vertical line from the top down, the center line, all the way down the middle of our face. So wherever you marked at the center of your circle, just pull that line all the way down so that we know what that middle point is when we're putting on all of our features. Then for our nose is going to be exactly 1 inch, the 1 inch mark in between those eyes. So we can again pull that line down. You can take your ruler and do it like that, or again, T-square, take your T-square. This will keep it nice and level to the top of your page, and you can mark it down like that. Okay, and your nose is going to sit right on top of that line that you labeled as nose. And it's going to be right above where that circle is, or right in below where that circle is from the big 5-inch circle that you drew. And now your lips. Now remember when we drew our lips, they sat right above the lip line. Okay, so when we did our lips last week, we came down from the center of where our pupils and our iris are. So this is the portion where our eye socket is going to be. That's going to be that circle there, and that will be that circle there. So if you're coming down from the center of that line down to your lip line, that's what we need to mark. So find your center and then mark that down here where your lips are. Okay. Now I'm going to turn off my light table or dim it. You still see the face. There you go. Now you can kind of see a little bit more of the construction lines. So our eyes, putting a circle in for our eyes. Remember how we did our eye socket? We know where our eyes are. It's going to be face, eye, nose, eye, face. So right in the center of there, get our 1/2 inch mark and our 1/2 inch mark. And then again, we're going to now make our T, lining up our 1/2 inch line. I'll switch my pencils because that one's a little bit dull. And then coming out to the X. And the X going the opposite way. So now we have the dotted lines going around that eye. What we're creating is that same shape that we did. Excuse me. Right here, where we did the dotted lines all the way around. That's what we want to do. Okay, so we're going to do it to the next one. Creating our T first, then our X. Sorry, it's kind of hard to see the measurement with the light reflecting on that ruler. Okay, so now we have our eye sockets, and I'm going to darken those out so you can see them very vividly. This is not a perfect circle. This is construction lines. I'm making them dark so that you can see where I'm at. But when you're doing this, you don't need to make these super dark. Especially if you're not doing the layers of paper where you're going to your window and putting one layer down and then the next layer down. All right, then going into our nose, we're going to have one big circle in the center and then the 2 smaller circles off to the side. Going down to where our lips are, you're going to have the oval dead center on the bottom. Okay. And then remember how we create the V with the smaller humps coming up. So we've just done our nose. Did the basic layout for that. And then we did our lips, where we did the oval on the bottom and the 2 V's on the top. Right there. Okay. And now we want to put our ears in. Now our ears are going to fall between our eyes and our nose lines. So we have those lines showing through. Brighten it up again so you can see them again. They're showing through right there. And we're going to do that ear layout that we did where we do the circle, the oval, and then the other circles. So that one right there. So starting underneath the eye line, do a circle, come over to the other side and do them back to back so you can kind of make sure that you're getting the right size. I'm going to go down to my lower circle, which would be the bottom of my ear, and then my oval. Now, I did see that we had some, when they were doing their circles, that we had some circles that were doing this, and then the oval was coming out and then coming in. That's going to give you a very big bump on your ear. And for some people, you see this slight bump like you do here. Some people, that bump kind of sits in. So if we make sure our oval is kind of staying within our circles so that it's not a huge bump, you could even do your circles like this where it's actually inside. Your oval sits inside, and some people's ears actually kind of dip in that way. So just kind of based on who you're drawing, the face that you're trying to map out, that will help you decide if that ear kind of dents in there or if it kind of bumps out, okay? So we've got our circles laid out there. We've got our eyes laid out. And we see where our mouth is supposed to reach out to. We can even do our little dark kind of smiley face circle right underneath of the lips, the V of the lips. And remember, our line kind of comes up, down, and then back up. So up, down, and then back up. And it will connect to this bottom. That's your bottom lip. You do your V on top, and it's going to come down to each corner. Your nose, that nostril on the side, you're going to do kind of a C shape and a little bit of a C shape there. And we are going to hover over that line. We're not going to let them touch where the nose is at. Remember how we don't actually let them touch. They kind of float away from each other, and that's kind of what gives it that look of the nostril kind of curving back into the face. And we'll have a little bit of that top curve of that nose showing up, and we'll have a little bit of a shaded line. I'm going to make a solid line right here because these are still some construction lines that I'm going to be using later. Now we can actually outline our ears, come around, do a little bump on the inside of the ear. That second line that hovers, it's like a parallel line, and it kind of picks up the circle of the bottom of the lobe, and this part will pick up a little bit of that circle as well. Do that on this side as well. Go around, do your second line that's parallel to the lobe, and then let it kind of pick up the curve. You have the part that bumps out on the ear, right on the interior, and then it picks up the circle right there as well. Let's do our pupils. They're going to be a small dark circle in the middle. So we'll start with a C shape on both sides. Whatever we're doing to one side, we do to the other, and then we compare so that we can make sure, yep, it's lined up, they look the same. And then remember, we do that little floating circle on the outside of that C. That's just a full circle, and that's going to be our highlight. So we can darken in our pupil. And then we're going to go in and put our iris in, and the iris is going to be a bigger circle around our pupil. Just like that. Okay. Now coming in and finding where our eyebrows are going to be coming straight up from the nose, hitting this eye socket and coming straight up. That's where our eyebrow is going to start. So coming up from the nose, hitting this eye socket straight up, that's where the eyebrow will start. And it is helpful here to also have a straight line that's going across. I'm going to use my T-square again, just to make sure that my eyebrows are hitting the same point as I'm drawing them. So I'm going to have them start right there, and then they're going to kind of come up to this point, and then when they end, remember how I said that the eyebrow coming out to the eye and out here. I'm going to turn my light off again so you can kind of see that a little bit better. From the corner of the nose out to the eye creates that mark of where that eyebrow goes out to. And the same on this side. Okay, so that looks like a whole bunch of crazy, doesn't it? We're going to come from these two bottom points, that's the bottom of our eyebrow, and we're going to take them out to in between the iris and the eye socket. So that's like right here, and I can draw that line going straight up. Okay, so from this point out to there, you can just give a basic shadow. It doesn't really matter. We're going to go in and perfect that all later, and then you're going to come down with your arch coming down to that line right there. Okay, so do the same thing over here, coming from that bottom point out to that mark that you made from the center or from your iris to the eye socket, that middle coming up, and then coming down from that out to here. Okay, now again, this all looks pretty crazy right now. I'm going to turn my light back on so you can see everything below, and I'm going to start pulling those face lines so that you can see the shape of the face coming through as well. We have one more measurement line that we marked, and that was our hairline. And that's right up here. So our hair actually kind of grows down over the face, down onto the top of our head, and it comes kind of in from the sides as well. You'll see on this one that I drew, this is my headline right here. It comes down the same distance from the top of the head as it does from the bottom of the face to the lip. So that was almost an inch, a little bit shy of an inch. It was 15/16. So that same measurement down, and then I kind of come in a little bit. You see, this is all where the head is, and that hair kind of comes out. But now you need to make that hair stick out farther and further than what the head is, because our hair actually does have some thickness to it. So on this face, I was somewhat trying to make this one look like a boy or do short hair. You can decide what kind of hair you want to have, but I'm going to do the same concept here. This is my hairline right there. This person, I'll have them have more of like a widow's peak hair, and then it will kind of come back, so I can just guess at that, and I can turn it upside down. Again, like I said, when we're checking symmetry, we can turn it upside down to see, are we actually even? And then we can make it float away from the head a little bit. Okay, so how about I give this one, make it into a girl, and she's going to have ponytails or pigtails. Doesn't have super long hair, but that's going to be the basic shape of her hair right there. And you can kind of decide what the shape is of the hair. Now, that still looks pretty crazy and pretty construction-like, and this is again where I would say now you can take another sheet of paper, lay it on top, a blank one, and now you can go in and pick out your very refined lines. You can do your marks like for your eyebrows, just using your pencil. You know exactly where you're going to be doing your hatching and your cross hatching. you don't have to worry about trying to find your placement. And you can do this very easily, kind of picking up where you left off, finding where you need to be, putting in the shading. Last week I talked to you about the lips, how I wouldn't have fully outlined the lips, but I did that just because you could find the placement and you could see where they're at. But now this time you don't have to. You could come in and you could start shading where the lips are without actually fully outlining them, and letting this side over here, if our light source is still in the same spot off to the right and in the front, it's not going to have a lot of light shining or a lot of shadow shining down on that side. It's not going to have a crisp line. Over here it might. So you can keep this line very soft and it won't be a huge contrast to the face right there. So you can pull all of those lines back through, pick up the things that we missed, the details on the eyes that we missed, where we have our eyelid that comes over the top, comes down to the center, out to the corner of the eye socket, kind of curves around where your tear duct is, comes down and back out to that corner. You can do that same thing to this side. So you can pick up all of those measurements, those details that we missed when we were constructing the face. And then when you walk away from the window, you're not going to have any of the construction lines that are floating around behind, like what this image has, or even some of these images. This one, you probably can't see it very well, but I have a circle right across the middle of her face. I've got lines coming across her face. So now you can get all of those details without actually having to have the harsh lines there. And it will kind of help give you a little bit more refined look. So you can kind of keep doing your shadows, keep pulling them over like from what you did in the weeks past when you drew your eyes. Do that same kind of shadowing around your eyes up here and lay it all out onto your face. And then I want to see your completed face when you email me, okay? So you can have your hair, your face, your eyes, your nose, your mouth, all of that showing up on your completed work. And I'm going to finish this one up and I will post a picture of this one finished as well. Guys, I hope you have a really good week. Take your time on this. Don't get frustrated. It's just all about practice and playing. If you feel like maybe that one that you were working on wasn't working out so well, put another sheet on top of it, take it back to the window and pull your lines back up, and you don't have to worry about all of that construction stuff getting in the way and needing to start all over from scratch. You can just pick up from where you left off. I can't wait to see your work. I'll see you guys next week. Bye.